So what I'll do in this video is I'm going to show you how to set up in Kubernetes a sort of RAG pipeline that can pull data from enterprise, well, wherever data is stored in the enterprise. So that could be SharePoint, relational databases, and so on. So with Airbyte, we can connect to those sources of data. Then we'll push that data into a RabbitMQ queue, which we'll set up. This will then get picked up by Bionic-GPT pipeline. In this case, we'll use the data will come from GitHub, so this will be GitHub issues, but this could have been any kind of support system. But I think it gives a good example. We'll pull the data from GitHub in and then send it all the way through to Bionic. You can see here we have a whole bunch of data sources on the left, and we want to figure out how can we get that data into Bionic-GPT, and the tool that we're going to use for that is Airbyte. Now, if we go to the documentation page, we've got a section called Connecting to Airbyte, and we can start to cut and paste the commands into the command line. I'm assuming that you've already installed Bionic into your Kubernetes cluster, and now we're going to install Airbyte. This is what it looks like as the Airbyte application slowly starts, and this is how it looks when everything's running. What we can do now is go down to Web App, Shift F, and open a port to the application. Then we can access the application from our browser. So here I'm going to set it to 8000 and go into the browser. And there we go. And we can just register with Airbyte. And this is what it looks like when it's up and running in your cluster. On the Bionic side, we need to set up a data set that's going to receive our data. And we also need to create a document pipeline. This is going to give us an API key that we can use with Airbyte to make sure our data goes into the right data set. Okay, the next thing we need to do is to install RabbitMQ. This is going to be the receiver of the data from Airbyte. We can follow the instructions from the website. Check that that's running. And we can also open a port here so that we can look into the RabbitMQ user interface and we can set up some configuration that we'll need. Okay, and I'll access RabbitMQ from the browser. Admin is the default password. Okay, so let's create a queue that's going to receive our data from Airbyte. We're going to call that Bionic pipeline. We also need to make a binding from an exchange into the queue. So we're going to bind by topic. And we set a root key, which is going to be like star.bionic pipeline. And that'll mean anything that we sort of route by the API key into that queue. Okay, we can now jump back into Airbyte and we can set up a RabbitMQ destination. And the host and the root key you can also get from our documentation. So for this particular connection, anything going to this API key with our routing key is what's going to be pushed into the data set that we created earlier. And one more thing is to actually add the host. The host name will look like this. Give it a test, see if it's working. And after a little while, we've got our destination set up, so let's set up our source. And for this, what I'm going to do is pull down issues from a GitHub repository. So to do that, select the GitHub source. You need an access token that you can put into the access token field right there. and then we'll run that pipeline. And what we'll see is all of the issues from GitHub coming into the RabbitMQ queue. And what we'll need to do now is install the Bionic RabbitMQ listener. And what this will do is pull down those messages from that queue and start to push those into Bionic, where they'll be chunked and embeddings will be created, and they'll be stored in the vector database ready for use from the console. So we can see here the queue's been processed. And if we go into our data set, we can see that all the issues have been pulled down and placed into our data set. So thanks for watching. I hope this video gives you an idea of what an enterprise document pipeline that's loading documents into large language models might look like, especially on Kubernetes. Please, if you've got any questions, put them in the comments. Have a look at our website, see what we're building, and we'll see you next time. Bye.